is the time to move to our next panel discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, we are moving on to the fourth panel for the day. Now, the next panel is going to be all about success stories. And now I would ask our session moderator, Rohil, to take it forward with all of our panelists. Thank you.
Thank you, Shobha, and thank you everyone for making to this panel. Since morning, we have been discussing various aspects of brand building, new trends that are shaping the brand space. And today, right now, we have all successful brands here present on this panel who will definitely talk about what it takes to make a brand successful. Let's understand their journeys. And Shobha was mentioning sauce, so we have a brand that actually manufactures sauce on the panel, so we'll go to him as well. But let me start with you, the only women on this panel, Arushi. You know, you've been phenomenally successful as a brand, and you have taken on new challenges and set up, you know, a certain customer loyalty. Introductory remarks. What makes a brand successful in a time when, especially in your category, which is intense, you know, when it comes to competition? What are the broader parameters that you look at or you can share that makes a brand successful in today's time?
Hello everyone, namaste. I am Arushi Jain and I am representing Akum's Drugs. We are contract manufacturers, and we manufacture about 12% of India's domestic pharma consumption for other brands. So our customers are pharma companies, nutra companies, cosmetic companies, and the sector that we are in, it is very highly regulated. You know, to bring about a new product, it takes us more than 2 years. Sometimes highly regulated, it requires a lot of patience, a lot of time. So as Rohel asked, what is one thing that you know, has worked for our brand, is how do we build credibility and trust. I think everything boils down to that. And so in the past 18 years, various things that we've done ultimately have come down to how our customers trust us, the level of trust that we've created amongst them through consistency in our service, through quality and consistency. So, you know, whether you have one customer or a lakh customers, or whether you're a B2B brand or a D2C brand, I think it's about building the trust and your customer feeling that, okay, I trust this brand, I trust what they're saying, they are consistent in what they're saying, they're transparent, and building that belief.
Right. So trust, building that trust among customers, and is one of the big things to make a brand successful. Mr. Bector, slightly different, you know, your journey on this panel. You've been around for close to 3 decades, if I'm right. And, you know, we've seen the rise of D2C brands. Now, a lot of new brands trying to disrupt your category as well. When we are in panels, people talk about innovation. How does innovation in practice look like for you, for a brand like yours?
So, innovation actually is the key to building a brand. And if you look at any brand of any significance, it has to be the first mover. And whether it is in design or a disruptive technology or a new offering that is proposed to the customer. And I have really not seen a Me Too product do well. It's a long journey, and we have amongst the audience Sanjeev, a very dear and old friend of mine, the promoter of Bakeman Biscuits. Hi Sanjeev, who was one of the first builders of a very disruption in the biscuit industry. But I'll go back a little bit in time, and let's take advantage of his presence that, you know, encourages me to touch on the story a little bit is that when we were together, when he was really shaping the career and I was getting into the biscuit industry early on, we would see the challenge of pricing. The biscuit industry was at that time at generally an EBITDA of 4%, and he would struggle and I would struggle a little more because he commanded a little more premium than us. But the real premiums ended up with the first originators of the business, so which is Bakemans and Parle, which had developed significant categories of their own. And learning from that point, you know, when it was understood very early in my career that it's either by disruption and you be the first mover that you'll do well. And there have been various instances in my career where this has happened. I've learned those lessons from, I would say, our common experience. So building the world's first vegetarian mayonnaise was a huge disruption, and it was by design that we thought of that we are going to disrupt the Indian market with a vegetarian mayonnaise, when largely mayonnaise was made with eggs and was legislated as such in most parts of the world. Which led to the customer recognizing Cremica in a different pedestal and has given continued success across various categories. And subsequently, we were also doing a snack food business, which was largely a me too to begin with. And we went on to make a kettle chip made in olive oil, which was hugely disruptive and stood out. And even though that brand, I would say, suffered a little bit because of lack of care. A small thing always suffers in a large business, but it holds its fort. So what I can say is that disruption is the key to building a brand. Of course, there are many more factors that have to go on top of that, but a good and a sound brand will always be made on the basis of a significant disruption.
And disruption takes a certain boldness, when you introduce that new product, of course, right?
Of course,
certain.
it's a first mover, and you end up creating the market. It's a difficult path. But you see, also, so in going back to, I would say our culture, तो आदमी अपनी किस्मत का खा सकता है, किसी और की किस्मत का खाना बहुत मुश्किल है. So,
Well said.
so let's get down to it that we have to make our own journey, and the only way out for success is to disrupt and build your own field. So you have to strike out. There is no choice.
Akash, you've invested in companies, you have had the journey of building successful companies and identifying which products will do good. If you put that lens to this conversation about success stories, how do you identify brands that would become successful? Give us a sense of that.
Sure, Rohil. So, great, I think, conversation. And as Mr. Bector, Akshayji just said, that the first thing we identify for the way we measure any brand's future success is by innovation and disruption. If any young brand, any young business is disrupting the existing status quo, the existing industry, we bet on them like crazy. Just to give a few examples, like when I got bet on by Ananta Capital, when I was building Bella Vita, I think we were the only company in the country who was trying to build super luxurious perfumes at very affordable prices. And that was about a year and a half back, and today we as a company do about 25 odd crores monthly just in perfumes. A second example is a company we acquired last year in April, which has grown 10 times already, was a company called Bevzilla in a similar space, where they do coffees and milkshakes. They disrupted the industry by creating something called coffee cubes. It's coffee with date palm jaggery, naturally sweetened, right? And we looked at it and we knew this would disrupt the industry, and today that company does close to 2.5 crores a month just by selling its innovative coffee. Similarly, there are two more companies we're acquiring, in the coming times, can't name them. But again, they're disrupting their industries, they're coming up with innovative products, and they're making life easier for the consumer, by three very simple P's: their product, their placement and their purpose, right? They've got fantastic product which solve the purpose for a consumer at the right price point. And the moment we see that combination being there, obviously supported by a very, very aggressive and a hungry founder, it's a no-brainer for us. Company successful hogi nahi hogi doesn't matter, but these are 3-4 parameters we look for funding any new startup.
But profitability, I mean, isn't
At
that
that time, so usually when we invest in companies, they're at a scale of 35, 40, 50 lakhs or maybe a crore a month. That time those companies are profitable. We have other examples of bigger companies like Springwell that we bought out last year. That time the company was about 40, 45 crores a month, profitable. Again, legacy business. So we do look at profitability, and our thesis as a fund and as investors is to ensure that business का मतलब profitability होता है. हमें नहीं समझ आता कि आप loss making में business कैसे grow करते हैं. As long as the business is profitable, we are there to support the entire journey, and that's our thesis.
legacy? Pankaj, again, a legacy brand of yours, been there for some time. How does a brand, in today's times, brands have a very less shelf life because they have to constantly manage, their identity and build that recall. 25 plus years again, I think more than that, your brand has withstood all those challenges. What makes a brand sustainable over the years? What are the bigger mantras that make it a consistent recall, top of the mind recall?
Hi, myself is Pankaj Gupta from RP Foam. We are the manufacturers of PU foam and mattresses. As Mr. Akash said, that 3 Ps are working everywhere. So it is the same funda. You have to produce those products which are for the market and as per the market. And you have to be aggressive in your marketing also. Your products should be luxurious. That are the main things which cater your brand up in the market.
All right, so luxurious, actually the kind of service, the experience that you give to customers, that matters. That's what essentially you are trying to say. Varun, slightly different story here. A highly regulated, in fact, a regulatory space that is still evolving and still trying to make a brand in that space wherein, you don't know what kind of forces will shape the brand. What does it take to build a brand in this category?
Hi everyone, thanks for having me. So for gaming, I think while these guys spoke about disruption and innovation, and I feel that is consistent across industries, including gaming, right? But the initial part for gaming companies to succeed was to focus on experience, right? If you see, gaming has been a part of our life and lifestyle since ages. It was offline long ago. And with the invention of mobile phones, if you remember the initial analog phones, there used to be games like Snake. I'm sure everyone would remember their snakes rolling and coming back, biting there in the back, right? And then with the coming in of smartphones, right? It was an opportunity where we could bring to life to the digital mode of gaming, which people were used to play and spend their times offline, right? So we had to make sure that, say for example, a game of rummy or poker, which Bazi Games is into, right? The kind of way people used to enjoy, had the emotions offline, how could we give that experience online? More so because of the fact that, see, these are the kind of products where people spend hours of their time in a week, right? So the experience on the product, on the app matters a lot. So I think experience has been a part which is our focus, and we believe that, to build a loyal customer base, experience and technology-led innovations are the key for us.
Great. Let me shift the gears and come to the other side of this conversation, which is the customer facing. Starting with you, Arushi, we talk about setting benchmarks of consistency in customer service. Give me your story. How do you look at that customer experience, that consistency in that experience, and never letting them down?
Yeah. So thank you for this question. I feel consistency in giving service to your customers, consistency in the values of the brand is very important. Until you are consistent, how will a customer know what to expect out of you, what to expect from the service? So it's been 18 years since our brand now, and 99% of the customers are still with us, you know. So it has been about consistency in quality. Um, since we are in a pharmaceutical space, we have to look at quality from various aspects, irrespective of the cost, irrespective of what the customer wants at times. You know, a customer may say ki, okay, 19-20 kar do, but we cannot actually do it. So consistency in quality, consistency in delivery of services, and consistency in being transparent in all the other values matters, and that's how you create trust and credibility ultimately. So apart from being consistent, however, what you know, in a ever evolving world, the customer needs also change. So if we are just consistent with what we used to offer to our customers 18 years back, 10 years back, that may not be it. So we also have to look at what are the evolving new needs. It could be anything. It could be, you know, now that they are expecting you to be more digital or tech savvy. It could be anything. So number one, consistency in what you're offering, what you're delivering is utmost important. But also, how do you look at their evolving and changing needs? So consistency
Right.
in
And it's a no compromise somewhere, not compromising with your offerings, you know, and
Yeah.
looking around what are the new things and factoring that in your product, right?
yeah.
Right. Mr. Bector, you have a sauce portfolio. So what is that secret sauce of getting customers glued to your product, building that loyalty? And also, how do you see customer acquisition, customer service? How does customer play, you know, on top, beyond the profit part of it?
I think carrying the conversation where I left it from,
Close it.
you know, we were fortunate that we were able to get into a space very early on and cause a disruption, a very significant disruption. And of course, you know, when you move from there, you also lay the turf for the future journey. And fortunately, with the wisdom and the experience that I had of my earlier stint as entrepreneurship, which I touched upon when I spoke before, there were some ground rules that were laid in terms of defining leadership. And so I think significantly is that you lead the industry in terms of innovation, then quality, and consistently hold that practice up. And this is easier said than done. So over the last 20 years, you've seen oil prices or raw material prices jump 4 times, double in the last year, you know, doubling it within 1 year. And while most brands have had to, you know, significantly compromise, you know, their product in terms of optimizing and not being able to pass on costs to the customers, I think our leadership and you know, continued commitment to quality gives you a brand loyalty that will enable you to, you know, pass the bad times. And that's exactly what I was able to experience, far beyond my wildest expectations, that we could increase prices by almost 50% in 6 months for a, you know, consumer product. It's, I think, not a thing that has ever been done or attempted. You know, my friend here had a problem when the biscuit price was changed from 5 rupees to 5 rupees 50 paisa. So, you know, we should remember that. That's a story I remember, you know, for many, many years. So I think the important thing is to make sure that your customer is always with you, and for that the brand has to always be, you know, important for the customer. So quality is one thing, constant innovation, not compromising. I would say that, you know, the practice of salami slicing has ruined many a brand. And that's very, very prevalent across channels, and you'll see, okay, now this is new, and there's a new heroine on the soap packet. And it's a story of, you know, significant reductions in quality, then followed by a remarketing exercise. But over a period of time, these things tend to lower the position of the brand and its salience, and the loyalty does come down. And that's when brands yield space to competition and to minor disruptions. Otherwise, they would need major disruptions to be upseated. So it goes without saying that you have to hold the customer's faith and promise intact forever.
Somewhere you're also referring to sticking to the basic, the basic rules, you know, if you, the quality, you know, thinking of the customer first. I think they always remain, no matter what the climate of the market is, you know, it remains the same, right? That's what you're referring to also.
Of course.
Right. Akash, two questions to you. One is the customer part of it. How can brands become more engaged and on top of the mind for customers? One is that. Second, from the investment lens, you know, what is happening with a lot of D2C brands, if you look somewhere, you know, I won't touch upon that. Valuation has become the only aspect of brand building somewhere. How can that be tackled? Two questions.
I'll answer the second one first. Rohil, just repeat the second one again, because towards the end, what you were saying, how...
Valuation has become the only driving factor behind setting up of a lot of brands. How do investors try to stay away from getting kind of, you know, lured by that part and actually looking at the impact it creates in the larger run?
So I'm going to answer this question, you know, in regard to the same topic that we're talking about, customers, right? Customers love. Gone are the days now where investors get lured by a brand's valuation. So to give you an example, if you look at the industry about 9 months or a year back, every single brand was being valued on their top line, right? Ki aapka kya revenue hai? No one was even caring about looking at EBITDA, right? Now we are in a situation where every single investor, before investing in a brand or in a business, looks at their net or CM2 level EBITDAs of that company. Now, EBITDA is a simple function of customer love. Hamare ko paisa kahan se aata hai? Customer se. So if your customer is coming back to you without you spending a lot on marketing, that means sooner or later you would be profitable or you should be profitable. So when we look from an investor's lens to any new startup or even a startup which has been funded multiple times, we always go back to first study their customer cohorts to see what kind of repeats are there in a brand. For example, Bevzilla, the coffee brand that we acquired, their customer repeats that time were close to about 42%, right? And that really turned us on, that any brand who's doing upwards of 30-35% in customer repeats, given consumers are not loyal anymore to brands, is a fantastic, fantastic matrix to have. So, you know, customer love boils down to, the way to see customer love is looking at the cohorts and the repeat rates. Now your first question, Rohil. What was that first question?
So the customer, in keeping them engaged and top of mind.
That's very important. So one, coming back to the same point that Mr. Bector mentioned, innovation. The more you keep innovating, the more you keep giving consumers new products from your same brand, the more engaged you keep them. And second is, the moment you consider your customer to be a friend and you start communicating to the consumer just like you'd communicate to a family member, wishing them every single occasion, making sure, engaging with them, telling them new offers, or even just a hello phone call every few weeks or a month, just to understand कि आपका product ठीक है, आपको service ठीक मिल रही है, and are you happy with what we are doing? Is there anything you'd want us to improve on? You know, just driving engagements with consumers, talking to a consumer like you talk to your customers in a shop, gets the business done for you.
But do brands actually talk like that?
We do that. We do a lot of it, and the brands that we invest in do a lot like that.
Wonderful. Pankaj, what is your strategy of keeping customers, you know, kind of on top of your priority list, ensuring that, you know, whatever product you are delivering or they purchase it once, they come back to you? What is your story like?
our story is like that. We manufacture mattresses, and we are into the foams also. So what we do once we deliver the mattress, we talk to them, we track them, how you are feeling, and let them. We check that all comforts they have get for what they have purchased. So it's a storyline. We developed around 250 exclusive showrooms of our Dreams brand to experience the mattresses and to buy the mattresses. So we take care about the whole journey from starting purchase to delivery to the deliver to the customer house. That's what.
All right. Varun, what is acquiring new customers like? Like there are, I know, a lot of startups that spend 700 rupees for one customer, you know, per customer acquisition. That's huge cost. How can brands, especially the newer brands, build a customer base without burning pockets? You know, what is your take on that?
So like you rightly mentioned, I mean, the customer acquisition cost is going higher and higher if you just stick to the traditional means of marketing, right? And the reason for that is that there is a lot of brands that have come into the market. There's a lot happening on the digital front. There's a lot of content that is being consumed, right? So it's difficult to create a differentiation in the minds of the customer, right? To attract the customer. The attraction time has, I think, gone down to about 2-3 seconds now. So I think it's really important for brands to know where their customers are, and then the story of the brand that you want to communicate, how differently and how simply you can communicate that, right? For example, for us, you'd see a lot of real money gaming brands just talking about big winnings and money, right? While money is one factor that comes in when you're playing real money games, right? But there's a lot of skill involved, there's a lot of glory, there's a lot of skill that comes into play, right? So we have taken that plunge and we have brought that sport element of the game into play. And that we have seen results that, we've seen a lot of attraction from newer audiences that, okay, this is a different game, this is a sport, right? So knowing your customers and how you want to communicate your story in the simplest format is going to ensure that, okay, in the long run, you're acquiring customers in the sustainable manner.
Keeping it simple. Which brings me to my final quick, question round, starting with you, Arushi, again. A lot of budding entrepreneurs here and otherwise, watching us live. What is your mantra for success? What would you like to tell them if they are trying to build a brand? What would you like to tell them? What to keep in mind to make a brand successful?
The thing that I would like to share with budding entrepreneurs is that two things. Number one is that a good decision taken fast, a good decision that is taken, quickly is better than a best decision which was taken
That's
much
a profound
slower.
line. Profound.
And while there are a few exceptions, I think this is speed is of essence.
Okay. Great.
And in the
All
interest of time, I'll just,
Yes, Ms. Bector.
We were talking about.
So what would you like to tell budding
So what
entrepreneurs?
I think, I've caught on.
So mic closer, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so I think I'll touch upon what Varun was mentioning on the cost of acquisition. So as a lot of businesses today are looking into various modern ways of doing business, the cost of acquisition of customers, I think, is going to be a key factor when it comes to future viabilities of businesses. We are looking at businesses today in my space acquiring businesses at 300 to 400% of annualized sales at and still suffering huge losses. So you're talking of basically an unsustainable model getting built up. And if you compare it to us, we would be at 20% of annualized top line. So 20 to 300% is not something that's ever going to make money. And if you are having a significantly good disruption, then the cost of acquisition of your businesses cannot be that high. I think that's one thing you should keep in mind.
Keeping the numbers right.
I'm going to keep this very, very short, given the time, but my only advice to every single entrepreneur who's here is don't get overwhelmed with valuations and market mein kya chal raha hai. Being slow and steady is the fastest way of building anything. Everyone over here has got legacy businesses, you know, except for me and Varun, who started this recently. But slow and steady is the fastest way to build a sustainable business, and that's what you should do.
Brilliant.
My side, keep your energy on, make product as per the market. That is the main.
Listen to the market
Yeah.
and incorporate. Great.
I think I would say two things. One is, focus on creating value for your consumers and not chase valuations. And you have a stamp of investors too on that. So I think that is one. And second would be go deep in understanding the problems, whatever comes your way, right? I mean, sometimes we jump onto quick fix solutions. That is not the sustainable way. Spend more time, 80% time on understanding the problem deeply, and you will come up with the best solutions.
Wonderful. So we've got the hang of what it takes to build brands and what are the various parameters that go into brand building. Thank you, dear panelists, for this wonderful, wonderful session.
Applause, ladies and gentlemen, for all our panelists. Thank you very much for sharing your mantras and secret sauce recipes for success. Some really, really insightful topics and pointers to pick from this conversation. We would like to present you all with our token of appreciation. And for the same, I would like to request and invite on stage Amruta Nair, Head Entertainment Ad Sales and Strategy, to kindly join us and present Strategy from Disney Star to kindly join us and present a token of appreciation to each of our panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, let's keep the applauses going for just a little more while. Let's burn all that energy. Let's bring our bright smiles on the faces. We have an exciting evening planned for you. As you know, the awards and the brands are going to take glory home tonight. All of that action is still remaining. And there is, of course, a lot of insights and knowledge-sharing sessions remaining for the day. So do pay attention to everything that is happening from this stage today. Thank you once again to all of you on the panel. Success stories from all of these incredible brands. Thank you so much. Congratulations and thank you to all of our panelists for joining us here. Let's have a group picture, everybody together. Congratulations and thank you to all of you. I'll also join in for a quick picture. Let's just do one more picture.